Good morning, everyone. This is Madison Lawson from Enterprise, Florida. I am joined here today by your Florida trade team. So we're very excited to have you all online, tuned into our webinar. And we'd encourage you to put any questions you have during this presentation into our Q&A box. We will save a good portion of time for questions at the end. So happy to hear questions, happy to answer them. And the team along here is going to be happy to answer those as well. So what we're going to do, I'll give you a quick little layout of this webinar, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So first off, we are going to start with myself with a short presentation on Enterprise Florida's current trade programs and offerings for the state. Then I'll pass it along to Sandra Campbell with the U.S. Commercial Service, talk a little bit about what their programs are at the federal level. And then Sandro Murtas with the SBA is going to talk a little bit about export financing. And then Selma Canas with the SBDC at University of South Florida, local here in Tampa, is going to talk a little bit about how they can help small businesses in the state. And then we are going to end it with David Habib from Yo Mama's Foods, who is a company here in Clearwater. He's going to talk to you a little bit about how he has kind of expanded his business internationally and taken advantage of some of our programs along the way. And at the end, like I said, we will all be here to answer your questions, and we are excited to do so. So you want to go ahead and do next slide, Lynn. So like I said, my name is Madison Lawson. I am a regional trade manager here at Enterprise Florida. My region is actually the Tampa Bay area, so I cover 10 counties within kind of Citrus County down to Charlotte, and a little bit beyond that for here in Florida, but there are regional trade managers throughout the state, so they are happy to meet with your business. And if you don't know who your regional trade manager is, there will be a map at the end, but feel free to contact me. I'll have our emails all at the end for you to ask more questions, post this, and make sure we can get a meeting on our calendars. So a little bit about Enterprise Florida. We are a private nonprofit corporation chaired by the Florida governor, and our president and CEO also serves as Florida's Secretary of Commerce. We are the principal economic development organization for the state of Florida. Next slide. And so what do we do? So my role here is to expand Florida businesses through international sales and exports, but we also recruit new business into the state, both foreign direct investment by recruiting international projects and domestic projects here as well into the state to increase our economy, create those high-paying advanced jobs within our target sector. Next slide. So some of the ways we do this. One of them is export counseling. So your regional trade manager will go meet with your company and walk you through our current trade programs and what stage of your business is in right now when it comes to exports, and are you able to kind of expand your international sales program. Something I always like to remind companies of is our e-newsletter. So Enterprise Florida has several events throughout the year, whether that's virtual webinars or seminars such as this one, or we may be participating in an international trade show, which goes along with our grant program, which I'll tell you a little bit about in the next few slides. Or we also have trade missions where we'll bring companies along to another country and they can meet with distributors, partners, whatever it is that they're looking to do, and increase those international sales, expand their business. Some of the other things in these bubbles we'll get to a little bit more in the slides, but you'll see we offer all sorts of information, market research, statistics, things that you're looking to, you might need to expand your business. We're able to assist with those. Benefits of exporting. So why do we exist? We're here to grow our economy, right? Here to grow our Florida state economy. So what we can kind of do through exporting. One, it's growing your new markets, expanding your products and services reach. You're also mitigating risk. If you are selling to one client in one country and that economy drops or you lose that client, it's great to have your hand in multiple buckets, having multiple partners throughout the world, throughout the globe, in order to kind of mitigate that risk. It also increases your customer satisfaction and word of mouth endorsements when you're having different customer reviews coming from all over the globe. Next slide. So here are our target sectors. When I get into the grant programs, just keep in mind, eligible Florida companies do have to be within these target sectors. A lot of them you'll know: aerospace, aviation. We're a big space hub here in the state. Defense, Homeland Security, we have multiple Air Force bases, manufacturing, life sciences, clean tech, financial professional services kind of encompasses, it's kind of broad, it encompasses several different subsectors within that. So if you're not sure, feel free to reach out and we can send you over a list of those specific subsectors or walk you through those sectors. Next slide. Export ready and eligibility. So when I say export readiness, or we'll provide export counseling, we'll look at your business. We'll figure out if you're ready for exports. Do you have adequate capital? Do you have adequate labor and supplies? If you do take off in one country, are you going to be able to handle those new sales? This point right here where it says eligibility. So when I get into the grant programs, which I believe is in one of the upcoming slides, if not next, in order to qualify for our grant programs, like I mentioned, you do have to be within that target sector. You do have to be within business in the state of Florida for at least 2 years. One of the big things is your product or service must be produced within the state of Florida. So manufacturing here, or if you are a service provider, that service must be done at your office in the state. You must be considered a small business, less than 500 employees worldwide, and be a Florida registered company on Sunbiz. This is not to say that you cannot utilize some of our programs if you're not eligible for under these requirements. It just means you might not qualify for those grant programs. So still happy to meet with all Florida companies and walk you through some of our ideas, contacts, and programs that we offer. Next slide. So trade programs and grants. We can go more into detail on these. I know some of those presenters who have next will kind of walk you through similar ideas and programs, but virtual business matchmaking is going to be one of our newer programs. Since the pandemic, there was less ability to travel internationally, so we did want to make sure that companies could still meet potential distributors, buyers, customers internationally and continue with those export sales. So what that program actually does is you'll work with an Enterprise Florida representative around the globe. We have multiple international offices, and they will basically look at your product, look at your business, and they will determine a number of meetings that they can set up for you for a potential buyer or partner, whatever it is that you're looking for, through a Teams call or a Zoom call. So they'll kind of do due diligence on that party ahead of time, so you know you're going to be having a great productive meeting with someone that you may actually want to be doing business with in that international market. Now, we do have a grant. So if you are signing up for this VBM program, you can actually be reimbursed 100% of the cost once you're completed with those meetings. And that virtual business matchmaking program is something we offer through Enterprise Florida, but the U.S. Commercial Service, which Sandra will talk about a little bit next, also has a very similar virtual business matchmaking program. We'll introduce you to international buyers, and our grant covers that program as well, in addition to the Enterprise Florida program. Now, the Gold Key and Trade Missions program. So Gold Key is basically that matchmaking program in person. So you're traveling to that country, you're meeting with those distributors in person. So when I say trade missions, when we take Florida companies to an international market and they're traveling with us, they're basically doing this Gold Key matchmaking program, but boots on the ground. Same grant, it will cover the cost of setting up those meetings. You'll be reimbursed for that fee after you have those meetings once you get back. International trade shows. We do have an international trade show grant. It will cover international trade shows for eligible companies who are attending a show outside the US. It does not have to be a show where Enterprise Florida has a presence at. It just has to be one that's taking place outside the US. You send us the international trade show, send us a link or a flyer, and we'll let you know if that is an eligible show. We'll reimburse you up to 75% of the booth cost, booth furnishings, up to $7,500. Sorry about that, not $75,000. The next thing is the expert marketing plan, which I'll let Selma go a little bit more into detail, but just know that that program is kind of a market research program on your product. Enterprise Florida it's a $5,000 program. Enterprise Florida will provide a grant for $4,500. International registration fee. A lot of medical device companies, life science companies need to pay for a specific certificate or permit in order to sell their product into another country. It doesn't have to be life sciences. If it is a certificate, you're applying for it, that fee, we can help you offset the cost of that, which is going to be reimbursing you for 50% of the application fee, up to $10,000. So if there is a certificate you're not sure about, why not figure out if we have a grant for that? Go ahead and ask myself or your Enterprise Florida representative, and we'll let you know if you're eligible for that grant. Website localization is fantastic for digital marketing internationally. It's basically a program that will take your website, you'll work with our partner, IBT Online, and they will redevelop your website targeted at an international consumer. So it might be translated into Spanish or Portuguese and targeted at, say, a Brazilian consumer, which might involve changing up the e-commerce of your website, changing up the photos, retargeting that at a different culture. That program is $12,000 and Enterprise Florida covers $8,000 of that. So it's a much more low cost way to redo your whole website They'll even edit the SEO so it's marketed at that specific culture. If you're having a lot of buyers from a specific country, that's a great program. Last thing is a certificate of free sale. Again, some medical devices, food products require a certificate of origin when it comes to exporting it to another market. And that is something we can do for you at Enterprise Florida. Next slide. Here is just a quick map of our international offices. So if you are looking to do business in these offices, our representatives can actually assist you boots on the ground. They have the contacts in that market, so it's a great way to meet those potential distributors or buyers, whatever it is that you're looking for. This slide is just a map of our regional managers. So if you are located in one of these areas, this is who your regional manager is. And this will be recorded. So if you need to go back and look at this, you'll get a link after this webinar. The next slide just has their contact information for your regional manager if it is not me, and it's somewhere else and you are not already familiar with them. And then I believe the next slide is the end of my presentation. So we're going to turn it over to Sandra Campbell. She is the director of the Tampa Bay Export Assistance Center, which is a Department of Commerce office over here in Clearwater. So she's going to give you some information about what federal programs are to help you expand internationally. So take it away, Sandra.
Oh, thank you, Madison, and thanks to Enterprise Florida for putting this webinar together, and all the other speakers for joining us and attendees as well. So good morning. My name is Sandra Campbell. I'm the director of the Tampa Bay Export Assistance Center as part of the U.S. Commercial Service. We are a federal office based in office in Clearwater, but we have offices throughout Florida, in Orlando, Jacksonville, Miami, and Fort Lauderdale. So we have, and also we have about 100 offices throughout the country. And we have offices worldwide within our U.S. embassies and consulates. So our mission is to help companies, particularly small and medium-sized companies, find export markets worldwide, whether they're new to export or trying to expand into certain regions or countries with finding export partners. So we do have different services. Our day-to-day is a lot of export counseling. We do market research, business matchmaking, and also commercial diplomacy. So these are just some of the services that we offer. Next slide. So the export counseling is everything from kind of that planning stage, finance, logistics. We have a lot of local partners that we can introduce you to. And then also just even if there's just dispute resolutions, sometimes we get calls, something stuck in customs in a certain country. Other questions are, what's the standard practice for payment in Algeria? I mean, just examples of things that we just kind of get on a day-to-day basis, just to know that you have a local resource that can answer these questions for you, because you can either answer them with the information that we have or check with our contacts in DC or in the actual country that you have the question on. So we do have this kind of network, and our job is to really help you expand internationally and avoid harm. And then we are actually rated based on your success. So that's kind of our counseling that we do on a daily basis. We also have this e-commerce innovation lab, relatively new. So they do website globalization reviews, kind of an analysis of your actual website just to see how international it is, and things, just simple tips to improve it. And also there's some digital strategies for and also e-commerce tips. So we do have this group out of, I believe, out of California. They have some great information on our trade.gov website. So next slide. And then market intelligence. We have country commercial guides. These are updated every year, but it's kind of everything you want to know about doing business in that country as far as exporting. So it's a great resource. They have a list of best prospects, and then also just tips about working with distribution partners, joint venture partners, if you're a franchisee, or also different methods of payment that are kind of typical in that country. We also do customized research if you need to have specific information. We also have access to some other research reports on certain industries as well. Another popular thing we do is background checks. So if you say you get a potential partner, they contact you, or you find someone and you're not really quite sure about their reputation or just their background, we can actually have our local staff there interview them for you, whether that's by phone or actually they can actually go out to their facilities and kind of do a check for you. Then we also do an initial market check, which is, it's before we do kind of, we'll lead into the next slide, but in a second, it's for before we do kind of a business matchmaking search, they can actually check with some industry contacts, kind of just gauge the market. to see if it's even worth pursuing, if there's maybe some issues in that market, or if it could be some potential. We've actually had a company do initial market check in Asia, and for a particular country in Asia, and they actually were able to find a partner through the initial market check. So it was one of the industry contacts was very interested in their product. So sometimes that can kind of work out as well. Next slide. And then the business matchmaking, as Madison mentioned before in her presentation, we have different services, which they've actually in the last year and a half have been virtually. But we do have our most popular one is the Gold Key service, where you'll travel to the country and we can actually set up meetings with potential buyers, whether it be government contacts, industry contacts, distribution partners for you that meet your kind of specifications. You tell us in advance the types of contacts you want to meet with, and we'll set that up for you. Usually within 4 to 6 weeks, we need a little lead time to set that up. But that's kind of our most popular. So we've kind of, and also we have an international partner search, which is very similar, but instead of traveling, you actually get a report back of these contacts that have interest in you. So during the past 18 months plus, we've actually done kind of a hybrid where we've done a virtual partner search, which is similar to a Gold Key. We actually have the face-to-face meetings, but via MS Teams or Zoom or how you want to meet virtually. So those have actually worked out well in the meantime before people have been able to travel again. We also have a kind of a single company promotion, which is we'll actually do a targeted audience. So we used to do these a lot of the times in country at the embassy or a hotel or a facility in country, where you actually get an audience of potential contacts, and we can actually set up that meeting for you. And then with it's usually sometimes too, I find that if you do have a distribution partner or rep, it's a way to kind of target some potential buyers for that. So that's kind of been very successful with a single company promotion. And then we have featured U.S. exporter listing. This has been more of a reactive. It's a way you can get listed on a certain country's website, say our office's website in Germany or Brazil or Japan, and you can be listed there, but you're kind of just waiting for the contacts to find you, whereas the other programs are more proactive and you're actually searching for the contacts. Next slide. And then trade events. So we have a variety of ones. On the left side, you'll see Discover Global Markets. It's usually our big conferences that we do in the US. So the next one we have is in September of 2022 in Rhode Island. And then we'll have Trade Winds, which is our big international event. And that'll be in Dubai in March. So that'll be the Trade Winds that covers the Middle East and Africa. So those rotate around the world every year and focus on different regions of the world. So what trade missions? We actually have a few trade missions coming up in the spring. We have one in March for Central America, and I think we have one for South America in May. So those are being planned. Let's see, we also have, that's for the partner search is listed there, but that's actually for the matchmaking. And then there's different trade shows that we are involved with in the US. We'll actually bring in foreign buyer delegations. Haven't done so much this past year or so, but when that kind of starts gearing up again, we'll be bringing in delegations, and then also international trade shows that we're involved with internationally. I know we have a team working on Medica next month in Dusseldorf for the medical industry. Next slide. Commercial diplomacy. So we actually have an advocacy center in Washington. So I've actually gotten a few of these lately. Is say if you're a company bidding on a foreign government tender, and you kind of want to have our group be involved as far as advocating on your behalf, especially if there's a lot of international competition. That's a way for our group to get involved. They can get our embassy involved, the ambassador involved. Sometimes it can escalate to the Secretary of Commerce and so forth. So it's a great way to have that kind of group kind of, advocating on your behalf for these are only for foreign government tenders and bids. There's also ways you can report a trade barrier. So if you feel like your company is being blocked out of a country, maybe your industry or certain products, we have a group in DC that can investigate that. And also a trade dispute resolution, like with customs issues, feel free to contact one of your local offices, and we can usually try to make an inquiry. Usually it's sometimes a call from our office in that local country can maybe kind of see what's going on with customs, and sometimes it could shake it loose from customs or find out what's maybe missing or some type of documentation that's required. Next slide. And these are just some of the results. Most of the companies we work with are small, medium-sized companies. They average about exporting to 8 countries. But I mean, it could just vary. There's some countries that are just new starting out. You're just kind of maybe not want to do a whole big shotgun approach. You might want to just target a handful of countries first, and then kind of grow that way. And then there's other companies that we work with that export to over 100 countries. So just kind of building that up as far as as what Madison mentioned before is really diversifying, not just having all of your business in maybe the US market. You want to kind of diversify. So if things are cyclical, if things go down in the US market, you can have that support from the international clients and customers that you have. And export profiles, just we have a mix of first-time exporters all the way up through experienced exporters. Next slide. And then just why exports matter. More than 70% of the purchasing power is outside the US. Next slide. And it's just showing that, US has, I mean, there's a lot of countries that are just exporting is really kind of natural. It's something that's very important to the GDP. So I think it's really just 12% of our GDP is exported, generated by our exports. So it's a lot of room for growth that we can do. Next slide. Next slide. And just to know that we have the worldwide recognition. So we are a US federal group, and then we can help open those doors through our offices in the embassies and consulates. We have in over 80 countries. And as I mentioned before, we're driven by your results. So if you're able to be successful exporting to a country or identifying distribution of partners in a country, that's kind of the feedback that we love to get, because we don't want you to spend a lot of time and money and resources in a certain country or region that you're not going to have the results. So we kind of also have our people on the ground there to kind of let us know maybe this one country A is not as great as country B, and so we can kind of help guide you to things that could be successful. And next slide. And just an example of how many exporters we've helped in this past year. Next slide. And also the number of jobs that we support. So we obviously want to help companies increase their exports and help create and support the jobs that they have. Next slide. And then also it's just a statistic that it's companies that export also grow faster and less likely to go out of business. Next slide. And this is our local office. So we cover the Tampa Bay and Southwest Florida region, all the way up to Hernando County, out to Polk, and down to Collier. And then we have colleagues in, I mentioned before, Orlando, Jacksonville, and South Florida that can help as well. And I think that's it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandra. That was fantastic, and great to know why exporting is so important and how important international trade is to the entire United States, not just the state of Florida. So now we're going to turn it over to Sandro Murtas with the Small Business Administration. Sandro is the lead expert finance manager for the state of Florida and also Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. So go ahead, Sandro, and take it away.
Thank you, Madison, and thank you for, again, putting this webinar together. If we can go to the next slide. As you might know, the Small Business Administration is also a federal agency that has the mandate to help create, grow, and expand internationally for the small business. Why we do that? Since the 1980s, via our financing programs. Well, Sandra just explained that there are many opportunities outside of the US, and so we want to make sure that small businesses have access to financing for the purpose of exporting. Next one, please. So I want to remind everybody of how we define a small business. We use the North American Industrial Code, which classifies industries, and based on the industry, we can see that, for example, manufacturers that have above or less than 500 employees, in some cases less than 1,500 employees, depending on the industry, they are considered small businesses. Also distributors, 100 employees or less, service companies, depending on the industry again, you can go up to $35.5 million. Or we also use what we call the alternative size standards, using financial parameters to determine the size of the business. And this is important, especially for federal contracting. And for that purpose, remember, SBA does not only financing through our partner, the banks, but we also provide technical assistance through the programs that we fund, like the SBDC, Women Business Centers, Veterans Opportunity Business Centers. So all of those organizations are funded by SBA to provide as technical assistance, access to consultants, as Selma will explain in a little bit, to help them plan for their success. Next slide, please. So for the purposes of financing, SBA considers also indirect exporters we make sure that companies that are selling only domestically, but their buyers are re-exporting their products and services that they buy from the small business, that qualifies that company as an indirect exporter, and they qualify for the higher guarantees for our programs. So that's a key element, because remember, we're sharing the risk with the bank when the small business applies for a loan and the bank needs the SBA guarantee. So the fact that they're an indirect exporter qualifies them for a higher guarantee under our Expo loan programs. Next one, please. So SBA provides our partner, the lenders, again, with 3 programs that they can use to guarantee the loan that they're making to a small business exporter or indirect exporter. We have the international trade loan, which will help small businesses to prepare by providing term loans that will help them improve production capacity, refinance debt, any of those uses that will make them more efficient and more competitive. We also provide the Export Express, which is a line of credit, and we will see these programs more in detail in a little bit. The Export Express, another program that is designed for companies that are moving the first steps into international markets. And finally, for small businesses that have been growing their export sales, they're seeing their cash flow kind of tight because they are growing their export sales, but they don't have enough working capital to finance those sales, then we can provide them with the Export Working Capital Program. Next one, please. So the international trade loan goes up to $5 million, and we provide a bank with a 90% guarantee. This is a term loan. As I mentioned, it can be used for commercial real estate purchase or improvement to their facilities, to purchase equipment, to refinance debt, to build up inventory through permanent working capital. So any of those use of funds is allowed to help small businesses become more competitive. Think about refinancing, which they can increase the term of the loan, and they can have a more or lower cash flow in terms of debt payments. Next one, please. Then we have the Export Express. This is another program. As I mentioned to you, this is an excellent program for companies that are moving the first steps. They can access up to $500,000. We provide a guarantee of 90% to the bank, up to $350,000. And now it's very important. In this fiscal year, SBA will not charge fees to the applicant, so up to $350,000, they don't have to pay SBA fees. The loan can go up to $500,000, and the guarantee between $350,000 and $500,000 is 75% for the bank. So it has become easier and cheaper to access financing to, again, finance those export sales and the international expansion. Under the Export Express, we allow the company not only to finance export sales, but also to finance export development activities, such as going to a trade show with the Department of Commerce and Enterprise Florida, going to a trade mission, providing samples to the client, making improvements to the website, to the products, and also to issue standby letters of credit when they're needed as a guarantee for the foreign buyer, in case they provided an advance payment. So all of these use of funds are allowed and are very important. As I mentioned, this is a great program for companies that are moving their first steps into international markets, because they can also use the line to finance part of their working capital needs for the domestic market. So we require that they use 70% of the funds for export development activities, but also they can use the line, the remaining 30% for domestic needs. Next one, please. And finally, for companies that have grown their export sales, their cash flow is becoming tighter and tighter, and the bank is not willing to provide a line of credit to finance export sales because they perceive higher risk because the company is selling to buyers in foreign markets, so they see it as riskier. The bank has the option to provide a line of credit under the Export Working Capital Program guarantee. The line can go up to $5 million, and the line can be used to finance export transactions, so purchase orders, contracts that the small business exporter has. They can also finance foreign account receivables and preferably backed by letter of credit or export insurance, such as the Export-Import Bank, which is another sister agency that can help mitigate risk for those account receivables, or export inventory. So the bank can advance up to 90% of the value of the foreign purchase order or foreign contract, up to 90% against the insured or letter of credit backed foreign account receivables, and then up to 75% against export inventory. If we do an ABL every month, an asset-based line of credit every month, the small business exporter will provide the bank with a borrowing-based certificate where they will list their export inventory and their foreign account receivables, and they can get, again, up to 75% against export inventory and up to 90% against foreign account receivable. And again, if, for example, the small business exporter has received a large order and they have required an advance payment, the buyer might require and probably will require a standby letter of credit, just in case if the exporter does not perform, they can get their money back. That requires for the bank to issue a standby letter of credit, 100% cash collateral. So if the standby is for $100,000, the small business has to put up $100,000 in cash as a collateral. But if they're using the line, that cash collateral requirement is reduced to 25%. So the small business can use the remaining $75,000 for a working capital. And the bank will only freeze the line for the amount of the 75% or $75,000. So it's a great tool for small businesses to take on larger contracts because their cash flow is eased by the EWCP. Next one. And this is my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. You already have a question in our Q&A box, so we'll get to that at the end. But thank you very much. It's great to hear a little bit more about export financing and what you might be able to get a loan for. So fantastic. Now we're going to switch it over to Salma Khanas with the SBDC at USF. She is an international trade specialist over there. And she's going to give you a little bit more information about the SBDC and the export marketing plan. Thank you, Selma.
Thanks, Madison. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in today. I am one of two international trade specialists here at SBDC at USF. My colleague Pablo Arroyo as well does export marketing plans as well as consulting and marketing consulting in addition. I've been with the SBDC at USF for about 10 years. And my primary role here is to develop export marketing plans. So I've done about 40 of them in the 10 years I've been here. And I've also had the opportunity to participate in several trade missions and accompany some of our clients on their gold key matchmaking sessions and sales calls. So if you have the opportunity to do that, it's really a great way to make connections. Next slide. So for those of you who are not familiar with the SBDC, we offer low cost training and no cost consulting, as well as market research for all of these different specialties. So we have offices and we cover all of the 10 county Tampa Bay region. And but we have a Florida network of SBDC centers. And so we cover the entire state of Florida as well as nationwide. We are funded in part by SBA, that's our primary funding partner, as well as state legislature and a variety of economic development partners. So the Florida SBDC is here to help small and medium-sized enterprises start their business, grow their business, expand their business, no matter where you are located. Next slide. The export marketing plan. So this has been a very successful program. It started back in 2012, I believe. And it is a partnership with Enterprise Florida. So Enterprise Florida, as Madison mentioned, they provide a $4,500 scholarship for qualifying companies to have one of these developed. Our center here at USF, we have been waiving the additional $500. So if there is a $500 cost to the company for this EMP, our center, since COVID hit, we have waived that fee, and we will continue to do so till at least the end of this year. Not sure going forward next year what the situation will be, but for sure till the end of this year, our center will not be, will still waive that $500 fee. So the qualifying factors, so there's primarily, this is for manufacturers and professional service providers only. So a lot of distributors will make application, but unfortunately we cannot do this program for distributors. The company needs to be minimum 2 years in business with over 500,000 in annual sales. However, this is the basic criteria. It's not set in stone. Madison also mentioned that she'll meet with the client, she'll meet with the company and review their exporting plans and what their budgets are and where they are in their manufacturing and so on and so forth, and make a decision based on that. So don't just get stuck on these 2 or 3 items, because it really is a case by case situation, and different companies will apply for different reasons. One is you may meet this criteria, but if you have like 0 domestic sales, that might be something that we need to look at. So just keep that in mind. It's always a good idea. You make application and then we take a look at everything, have a meeting, and go from there. So the export marketing plan is really, it's a roadmap. So it's a global overview of the company's industry or industries and the products that they manufacture or services they provide. So we take a look at the industry of the company in the US as well as globally. And we determine and try to identify what are the indicators that are driving the growth of this industry. So we look for those indicators and we conduct market research to find data by country to support that growth based on these indicators. So the indicators are specific to the industry of the company as well as their product and or service. we put together a wealth of information in a report. The reports can be 50, 60, 100 pages, just depending on the project itself. And we try to provide information for the company based on data of demand for their product or service, what countries are importing the most of a specific product. We look at, maybe sales volume of a specific product. We look at what are the opportunities out there, maybe, depending on what target market industry they're looking at. We look at how many companies, in a specific market there are of, let's say automobile factory or something, if that's their target market. So we take a look at that. We also look at tariffs, because that makes a big, that's a big concern when it comes to pricing. And we look at some, risk indicators as well. So all of that, we put it together in an easy way to compare country by country based on data, and help the company make a well-informed decision as to which countries they should be looking at, and that will have the best potential for sales. And then the next step after the export marketing plan would be to work with U.S. Commercial Service, Enterprise Florida, to look at what are going to be the market entry strategies for those markets. And there's the website there to apply, make application, and I'm sure Madison will share all that information at the end. And I'll take questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Selma. The Export Marketing Plan is a fantastic program for companies that are looking for a good amount of research and looking at, they're not sure what countries to be targeting just yet. So next up, we're going to have David, the CEO and founder of Yo Mama's Foods, tell us a little bit about his company and how he got into international sales. And David, I hope you've learned something so far along the way in this webinar as well. So take.
Awesome. Thanks, Madison. Thank you, everyone, and to all of the companies joining here. I know how overwhelming exporting can seem, but Madison and really everyone who has presented has amazing resources. So it's very refreshing on the business side and in the business world to see that there's a lot of great resources and great people out there to ultimately help you. Because as the owner, as the salesperson, you're ultimately looking to grow your company. So a little bit about us, Yo Mama's Foods Co. We are a Clearwater, Florida-based business. We operate out of a warehouse here. You could go to the next slide, please. We primarily focus on natural pasta sauces, dressings, and condiments. And our basic inspiration is that no one makes better food than your own mama, and to everyone, their own mothers make their favorite dishes. So, that's how we got started and why we're in business today. We're a 5-year-old company, so very young, just started exporting last year. Didn't have experience on the export side, and really worked closely with Enterprise Florida and the SBDC. We worked with Selma and her team on the export marketing plan, which was extremely helpful to really help us to guide us into what specific markets would be suitable for our products. Who are the specific buyers, and that's really how we got started here. So you could go to the next slide, please. So these are, just a little bit about our products. So, everything is all crafted with fresh ingredients, fresh tomatoes, fresh basil, fresh onion. We're the #1 best-selling pasta sauce on Amazon and shipped to about 9,000 stores nationwide. So as we were growing our business here in the US, we started to get a lot of international interest and international buyers, but we're a little bit lost as how we can ultimately build a successful business overseas, especially with glass items. It can be challenging with shipping and then freight. You could go to the next slide, please. A little bit more of our items. These are our dressings and condiments, and then next slide. And our condiments here, same exact philosophy. So, that same successful piece of keeping things clean and keeping things healthy in the US proved to be effective overseas. But, next slide, please. Our strategy was, how can we ultimately grow? How can we take our distribution in the US and continue to ultimately grow it? So we reach out to Enterprise Florida. We had wonderful connections with the SBDC, who created the export marketing plan. They ultimately found out that Mexico would be a wonderful market for us. Went back to Enterprise Florida. They set up about 9 buyer meetings with specific buyers. After a lot of research, we kind of narrowed it down to who the specific buyers would be for our type of product. And from those, we got interest from about 2 of them. And one of them we are actively working with today. Haven't received any orders yet, but we're kind of going through the entire process of the translation of the labels to ultimately making sure that everything is successful and suitable for the Mexican market. So it all came, full circle. We were able to really accomplish our goal of exporting, and that specific experience gave us confidence as well to start exporting to other countries. So we have a small buyer in Hong Kong and one in Korea as well. And really, using that export marketing plan and all the resources that we all learned about on this call today helped us to ultimately get our feet wet in the export market, and will ultimately help us to keep on building those buyer relationships and expanding into other countries too. Next slide, please. And that's it on my side. So if there's ever anything that I could do to be helpful, my email's there, and happy to answer questions. But really, everyone on this call has been extremely helpful to us as a business, and we're excited to keep on with our strategy of exporting overseas as well.
Great, thank you so much, David. Someone has already put in the chat box how they can contact you. So, Lynn, if you can go to the last slide, I have everyone's emails listed. Is that the best way to contact you, David? Is it email? Is it call?
Email's perfect, yeah.
All right, great. The other question, and as a reminder, please put your questions in the Q&A box and we'll try to get to them. I have a couple of questions for our presenters as well, but let's go with the first one. Someone did ask Sandro, does the loan cover acquisitions?
Yes, it does under specific conditions. For example, they have to purchase another business, an independent business. There must be tangible assets. In addition to the goodwill, you must be purchasing also, for example, equipment, commercial real estate. All of those are allowed under the ITL or the Export Express when it's issued as a term loan. And the buyer or the exporter, or the buyer or the seller must be an exporting company. Otherwise, you can still qualify under the regular programs. For example, instead of having the bank having a 90% guarantee, you can have a 75% guarantee. And that the regular 7A allows you to, for example, to purchase, if you have a partner and you want to do a partner buyout, you can do it under the program.
Great.
So,
thank you, Sandro. If whoever asks has any follow-up, feel free to put it in the chat box. I'll see we'd have yes, this recording will be uploaded for reference. So it is being recorded. It'll be on the Enterprise Florida YouTube channel. So you can go through, look for our contact information, and our emails are here. And if you need anyone's contact information, whether it is a different region, regional manager, regional contact in a different part of Florida, feel free to reach out to me and I'll make sure I get that information over to you. I also wanted to add again, if you are not already signed up to receive our e-newsletter to kind of get a list of what ongoing events are, whether it's Enterprise Sport event or even our partner events, we do send that out once a month and it's very helpful. So if you want to be added to that as well, go ahead and let me know and I'll add you to it. There is 2 questions in the chat box. One is from Anthony. Hi, Anthony. Where does our local EDC fit into the process? So as I actually recently moved to Enterprise Florida from an EDC about 3 months ago, I can answer this. Your your local EDC is really your local representative, and we work closely with them to make sure their companies know what programs and grants are available. So whether it is a referral from the EDC from them to us, so we can give you some of that information and guidance, or vice versa. If we're working with a company and we know that they are expanding, they have been exporting enough, or they have reached out to us, they need new real estate space, they are looking to expand, or they need local contact information, whether it is at the city or county level, whether it's permitting information, zoning, anything at your local city or county level, that is where the EDC can come into play. So we'll work closely with them. If your business is expanding, make sure that's kind of where the EDC comes into play, to make sure you helping you grow locally and expand in your local county or city, wherever your EDC is representing. And we'll try to, when I go out and meet with, say, companies to do kind of export counseling, make sure your EDC partner is involved, because we want to make sure that they are up to date, or we're up to date on the companies that are growing locally who might need assistance. We work very much together, hand in hand, to make sure we're all up to date on speed on our companies. Since EFI is at the state level, we may not have those same very close relationships with companies at the local level. That's where the EDCs come into play. They maintain those very close relationships. So when it comes to having questions about international sales, they might reach out to us, and we'll come in to kind of offer our expertise. And I know some of the local EDCs will have their own trade missions. We're here to support those, or they may attend some EFI events. Very much welcome to do so. We work very much hand in hand. The other question in the chat box, Sandra, is there a fee for the website review?
Yeah, so that I was looking on it, because I know initially, the website globalization review, they call it gap analysis. So I think for small companies, it's $100. I can just double check to see if it's being waived or not, but I know it was before pandemic, it was $100 for the analysis. And I know Dan in my office was doing them, and if anyone knows Dan, it's a really good, extensive report. So, but no, it's so now I think it's really worth we have we can actually send more information if you're interested in doing that, as far as what's included.
Great, thank you, Sandra. The another question: can Enterprise Florida help companies resolve export compliance issues? That's definitely something we can help, or we can refer out. I know your local commercial service representative may have a little bit more expertise when it comes into compliance, or we'll, like I said, refer you out to another association. We have partners all over the state: Florida Supply Chain Association, customs brokers, that we may be able to set up a call with, or refer you to answer those specific export compliance questions. Next question. Would Sandra or anyone on her team be a good resource to help navigate port issues? Currently, Tampa isn't as cost effective, but with the issues in California, perhaps it would be. Sandra, if you want to take a shot at that, go ahead. But I'll also mention we have a very close relationship with all of our ports here in Florida. So if that is something you're looking to get into contact with, happy to help. I work very closely with Port Tampa Bay, so this would be an interesting issue. They'd probably want to hear about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, we as Madison mentioned, we just deal with Port Tampa Bay, Port Manatee. We have the contacts there. I just had recently a company that was looking for products to send to Asia. It was concerned, so I got them in touch with Port Tampa Bay as far as kind of what options they might have for that. So I think that would be kind of the first resources to talk to. And if for some reason that wouldn't, if you need more help, just reach out and we can contact our teams in DC. Thanks, Sandra. Yeah, and to add on to that, port contact might be good. It might be a questions for a customs broker or freight forwarder as well. So those are all referrals we're happy to help you make or help you find. Okay, I think we're all up to speed on our questions right now. Let me check the chat real quick. Again, if you have any other questions, we're almost at the end, so feel free to write those now. I did have a question for David that I wanted to ask before we hop off here, which is, how did you decide on Mexico, or a specific country when you first started looking into this international sales process? How did that kind of country come about?
Absolutely. So our team had done some internal research, our sales team, and we kind of consolidated all of the messages and all of the specific buyers who were interested. But really, it was the SBDC export marketing plan that helped us to narrow down specifically which country had the largest kind of opportunity for pasta sauce. And then Enterprise Florida really worked with us hand in hand. We had a consultant, we applied for that trade grant. We had a consultant overseas who was, really in the Mexican market, understanding the specific distributors and buyers. She set up all of the meetings for us, which was extremely helpful. And everything was all done over Zoom. And as I mentioned, we had 9 specific meetings. It was a pretty quick process too. I would say, between 4 to 8 weeks, we were able to accomplish everything, which was nice as well. And about 2 months later, we're finalizing our deal with ultimately the distributor who will be growing our business in Mexico.
Great. Thank you very much, David. It's always great to hear from someone that's actually utilized the programs and can kind of give their firsthand experience on that. I know we only have 3 minutes left. Make sure there's nothing else in the Q&A box. If not, I have one more question I did want to ask. Sandra, I know you talked a little bit about virtual programs, international partner search. Do you think that those programs are here to stay? The Enterprise Florida virtual business matchmaking kind of came out of COVID, but we have agreed that's something that's going to stay. What about commercial services program?
I think so. To an extent, I know there's some countries where, it's really like that face-to-face is very important. Something like an example, like Japan, it would be face-to-face. We weren't really offering virtual before COVID, and now, we were offering it now, but so maybe there's some countries where it might kind of, not necessarily Japan, but might revert back, had the preference being face-to-face, but we were actually offering it before. So it was, but not to this extent. So I think it's probably something that's going to be around. I think it might be something where you get the report, then you actually have the face-to-face through virtual, and then maybe then having a follow-up meeting in person, whether you're traveling to the country or say that person's traveling here for an event or trade show. I think that might be another extra step that might be helpful to kind of have that face-to-face interaction. And then one other thing I forgot to mention too, and questions about the ports, but that's something just to add in general, is that we also have district export councils throughout the country. And we have 2 in Florida, one for kind of the North Central chapter, and then we have one for South Florida. So, but that's another thing with the logistics questions or anything else as far as other exporters. They're made up of people that are very experienced with exporters themselves, or they can be experienced in logistics and finance. There's just an additional resource for you, someone from people from the private sector to help out. So they might actually, people that are actually going through these kind of logistical challenges, they might be able to kind of shed some light. So that's another resource that we can actually also route you to. So.
Great. Thank you so much, Sandra. We are at about that time, so I did just want to say thank you so much to all of you for speaking today and providing your wisdom and advice. It is most appreciated. And to our audience, did want to remind you, so this is your Florida trade team, but it's not even just these organizations. Like Sandra mentioned, DEC, there's multiple other organizations that are here to help, whether it's at no cost or low cost. So really any question that comes up for you as a Florida business looking to get into exporting, or you have questions about compliance or a new market, feel free to reach out. Like I said, if I don't know the answer to the question, I'll make sure I get you to someone who does. So with that, thank you all for watching and tuning in today. And David, Sandra, Selma, and Lynn, thank you very much for putting together this webinar and being with us today and taking the time. So it is most appreciated, and thank you all.